Today's video, we're gonna talk about how to get up to spending $100K a month USD on Google Ads a month on ad spend and have it pay for itself. There is a proven way to do this that I'm gonna cover on today's video, where we've had in several markets. I'm gonna give an example of how long this took and then the process that we also went through to do this. So you can ultimately do this for yourself. It is not rocket science. Anybody actually truly can do this, even if you're not starting out with more than a few $1,000, or, even if you're not an ad expert, frankly, even, you're just started out somewhat recently on Google Ads. Okay, it's all with your mindset. Is your mindset right? Do you understand the information I'm giving you here? Because really, when you put it all into perspective and you understand the process and you're okay with it, work the process, you're gonna make it work for you as well. So with that said, I'm gonna get directly into the content here. So 99% of all fortunes on Google Ads started with a seed investment and also lots of time. Those are the two magic ingredients itself. It's a seed starting ad spend that you had to put into the system to kickstart the flywheel and get everything going, and then time. There's nothing you can do to get rid of one or the other to fix, get to 100K a month in ad spend. Of course, a lot of people would think that if I have money, I should just deserve to have my ads work right away. Right away, they should work. And I shouldn't have. This is the biggest challenge that I have just working with individuals at our agency at Guaranteed PPC, of communicating the time part of the equation itself, because ultimately you need to advertise and test and get data to know what works. You're not going to start out knowing everything about everything. It's impossible. Not only that, but the ad algorithm that runs Google Ads, it needs also data to just figure out what part of the market buys and what part of the market doesn't buy. And you can't bypass that. Now, the only question is then, once you understand these two ingredients must be there, is how much time and how much money. Well, the money part of it, like I mentioned at the start of the video, you don't need tons and tons of money. You can start out with, generally speaking, a few $1,000s and get the so-called flywheel going for your business. It doesn't have to be that it costs $50,000. Now, that said, there are some markets where it can cost that to get to initial profitability with your ads, where your ads are paying for themselves after all expenses are considered. But I would just simply say in that case, if you're in a market like that, don't actually run ads in your market and figure out how to do some other marketing method first, and then come back to Google Ads once you're done, or just get into a different niche market, because generally speaking, there's markets that are totally crowded, and those markets are going to cost more money. Or if it's it's a low barrier to entry, it's going to cost more money. So why not just find something else to market, and it doesn't cost 50 grand anymore. It costs a few grand, like it's, ultimately you expect it or should or want it to be like that. So don't listen to what these other gurus are telling you online about Google Ads and how it's so quick, so easy, so cheap, because they're selling a dream. Ultimately, they're selling a course. They're trying to make money off of advertising on Google AdSense or on YouTube, telling you what you want to hear. Should I say not you, but most people want to hear, which is it's quick and it's easy. Everybody wants to make money quick and easy. That's going to be true to the end of time, okay? The reality is, if it were that quick and that easy, everybody else would be already doing it. It's not, nothing can be quick and easy and as profitable to make $1 million a year in profit a year when you are spending 100K a month in ad spend. Of course, it can't be easy. Otherwise, everybody would already be doing it. So the question is, really, not only just, like I mentioned before, how much money, how much time, and how do I need to run my ads that will be better than the average person who tries, because that's the other defining ingredient in all this. Your setup itself. Given that, I can tell you for a fact, Google wants you to make $1 million a year in your business. They do. They want you to come to the plate with something that they don't have in your market already. They want to have a better offer, better ad, better landing pages, and then they're going to give you that money if you got it, okay? Now, you may not have a better product or service, and that might be fine. You're going to have to work harder to make your ads work and set up your ads right and make your website right to offset and have the differentiation over your competition. Or you could just make your offer better, or you could go into a different niche, like I mentioned before. Something's got to have to be better, given that I can tell you for a fact, the top 10 or 20% of your market is where almost all 80% of the money is made. So you need to either hire somebody who knows what they're doing to do it all for you, or you need to watch the videos on this channel to figure out how to have the top 20% strategy. Because until you do, Google's not going to cooperate with you. They're not going to be able to help you take $1 and turn it into 2 and then 4 until you're in that top 20% at least. But the good news is barely anybody's trying. So therefore, you just don't it to be a rocket scientist to get in the top 20%. You just got to try a little bit, honestly. What I will also tell you as a part of this prelude here, a lot of people see their competition running their ads, and they're running them, you know, they're seemingly at the top of Google or whatever, on YouTube everywhere, and they say, that must work. I'm going to do what they're doing. And they do it, and then they don't get they're not profitable, and they scratch their head like, what the hell? How the hell can they afford to run ads? And the way that they afforded to run ads was what I'm telling you on this video. They started out with a seed investment, and then they reinvested their money again and again and again, and they built it up to that. They didn't start out spending $100K a month. They started out spending $1,000 a month, and then 2, and they worked the actual process. So it looks easy on the outside, but you didn't see the 5 years of long work and the slog it took to get to the point where they're at. And you could do it too if you're just a little bit better than them in terms of your sales funnel, your campaign, because Google ultimately wants to give it to you instead of them. Okay? Now, getting into the actual data here. So what you can ultimately expect when you get into this to quantify what you're going to expect, assuming you're starting out at day one. You may be already advertising for a while. You might already be spending several grand a month, whatever. The concept is still the same. There's time involved in getting these ads to be profitable, okay? And ultimately, the amount of money that you're making is going to go up the longer you advertise. Assuming you know how to do it intelligently, you're in that top 20%, like I mentioned, and you just know what the consumer wants better than, which is how you get to the top 20%, right? You know, you're giving the consumers something that's better than the market already has in terms of the people advertising next to you. So what you can ultimately have, in this chart, I have an example market where it's a competitive, we'll say it's a quite competitive market with higher margins where, you know, like, let's say cosmetics, where typically the cost of goods is 20% of the sales value of what you're selling is. In that case, you'll see a chart pretty much like this, where after 3 months, you might only have an 80% ROI, and then after 6 months, a 150% ROI, you know, so on and so forth, where the actual break-even cost, if you will, is right around this point here, like 225%. And you're talking about basically potentially taking 15 months to get to your break-even cost, where the sales that you're making offset the ad spend, the cost of the product, the delivery of the product, everything, okay? And then you're basically home free. You can actually spend more money taking from what you're already making in terms of profit to raise your ad spend and start making more sales, and then keep that flywheel going, baby. And then that's what you have. So, but what people will do is they'll get 3 months in and they'll say, oh, I'm not profitable. This doesn't work. I'm just going to stop. And they just never end up getting anywhere and then they try, okay, maybe they'll say, maybe I have to set up the ads differently. And then they'll try it again. And then they'll wait 3 months and, oh, it didn't work again. And then maybe they'll hire an agency. And then that agency doesn't work. And then, I'll try a different agency. And they just keep doing this and don't actually get to the promised land ever, because they don't understand that it's not 3 months to get profitability in most markets. Now, there are markets where you can be profitable in 3 months, but I can tell you for a fact, it's in markets where there's low competition and high demand, to where like you're obviously, by looking at your product, it's 10 times better than the competition. You can get profitability in 3 months easily, 1 to 3 months, no problem. If you're in a highly competitive market with a Me Too product, then you're talking about the, 15 months time frame. So you can either spend more time developing a better product or better packaging or have a different offer, such as you're offering a guarantee, warranty, whatever. Or you can spend more time and money on the ad strategy. One way or another, you're going to have an edge on your market. So you could pick whatever you want to focus on. And then with that said, the other thing to keep in mind, when you're advertising, the people that click through your ad today, most of those people don't buy the first visit to your website. They don't. They look around. They have to wait to get paid, whatever. And so what you have is ultimately a delayed fuse on these people that are coming to your site. The average person might buy in a few days, but there's quite a few people who won't buy for months. They saw what you had today, but they weren't ready to buy now. They were just doing research. And this happens more so in markets where you have a more expensive product or service. But ultimately, your ROI goes up because the people that clicked day one that were going to eventually come in month 6, you're getting those sales too. So you're getting only a small fraction of the sales you're going to get day one with your ad spend because of that. And then also you got repeat purchases itself, people that are going to buy again. You get the money from that. You don't get that when you initially pay for the click day one. Even if they bought day one, you got referrals that you're going to ultimately get eventually. You got organic traffic that you're going to get because you're running ad spend. Your organic's going to benefit. Yes, this does happen. Maybe not on a small spend, but when you get up to spending, like 10K a month, you're going to definitely see a big jump in your organic rankings. All this stuff adds up to the actual return your ad spend is going to get. And so your return on investment, when you're talking about MER or marketing efficiency ratio, which is the total sales in your company divided by ad spend, that is ultimately going to go up because of everything I mentioned. And so it's just a matter of time before you get to your break-even point. And then you're just going to be able to, you're home free, you're going to go to town, you're going to be reinvesting, and then eventually you're going to get to your 100K a month. What you need to do to be able to do this for yourself is, like I said, you got to understand how to have an edge. Figure out how to make your ads have a higher click-through rate, or your website or your landing page, or if you're not using landing pages, use them to get a higher conversion rate than your competition. And then you go to market with that, or you change up your offer, offer a money-back guarantee where your competition doesn't offer one or whatever. And then now you're in the top 20%, you start advertising. With that, you got to set up your tracking to optimize, because the data that you get from the tracking data goes to have Google optimize your ads, make your results better. But you also want to know, before you start, your acceptable MER ratio. What's that total ratio of sales to ad spend that you're profitable after all your expenses at a bare minimum level, then some a little bit. So if you're 200% is your true break even, then you'll say like 225, 250. As long as I get that, I'll keep spending more itself. You have that number up front. And you also have, before you start, a starting budget you can afford to lose itself. And this is where people get screwed up. Because the reason why mainly people quit at the 3-month mark, when really it would have worked fine what they were doing, if their ads were set up right, is because they don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. So they will, I deserve to get results and profitability by month 2, so I could keep spending on month 3. And then so they're doomed before they get started, because it doesn't happen that quickly in their market with the level of what they have, and it's not 10 times better than anything else in the market, so it's going to not take 2 months. And they're guaranteed to fail as a result of this. You got to invest what you can afford to lose basically indefinitely. If you can afford to only spend $1,000 a month, lose it, and get nothing from it for the next 5 years, but not $2,000, that's what your starting budget has to be. You take money from other parts of your business that's already working, you put it in the ad spend, and you just keep optimizing the hell out of that $1,000 a month until it eventually gets to your ratio of sales to ad spend that's profitable. And if you put yourself in that position, it doesn't matter if it takes 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 24 months, 36 months. It doesn't matter to get to your break-even point. And you're not sweating it. You're not constantly stressed out. It is what it is. Whatever it takes, it takes. But you're investing in the future, just like you're training an employee, which is a perfect analogy. A lot of people will train salespeople, and they'll hire them, and they'll know that it takes 6 months for them to kind of get on their feet. And they have to pay that salesperson $8,000 a month. So you're in $50,000 before that person's expected to even pay for themselves. But with Google ads, for whatever reason, because the ads are technically running right away, they expect to be making money right away. It's the biggest fallacy that there is. So it's very much like that. You have to pay to play. You got to pay to gather data. And it takes time for the system to realize that you're doing good. So they want to put you in front of where the competitor is now, where they know all the best traffic is. They want to show you instead because you're helping their users better than the other guy is, because they just want people to get used to clicking on ads, and they want to show the best company that's there in terms of higher ad click-through rate, higher conversion rate, and then of course reviews, because they also do check those as well. But that's it. That's the formula right there. Now, I know that doesn't sound very sexy, if you will, and it'd be nice to just spend $100K a month and make 10 grand a month in profit within 6 weeks with some magic formula. That's not how it works. You got to learn how to run ads. You got to put the work in to make the ads right, because just learning about it ain't going to do you jack shit, do anything for you. Ultimately, you got to learn how to run the ads successfully, which I got all that information for free on this channel from somebody who guarantees our results to our clients. You find out how to have the better ad, better landing page, you set it up, and then you run it, and you run the process as I just described. Now, it doesn't have to take you years and years to get to where you're spending $100K a month. It could take far less time if the more you actually want to roll up your sleeves and put in work to get better results, because you have a better ad, better landing page, better mousetrap, if you will. So it's all up to you how quickly this happens. The better of a alpha, but in other words, the spread between the top 20% of your market in terms of click-through rate, conversion rate, reviews to you is, the quicker it's going to happen, quicker you're going to get to $100K a month. Naturally, it's hard to change your product or service to make it better. I recommend technically doing that first. Make your packaging better, make better terms and what you're, figure out what the users want, add in features, whatever. But ultimately, it's not that hard to come up with better ads, better landing pages, better websites that convert better. You just have to hire qualified professionals that know how to do it if you can do it, or you just, like, if you're starting out from zero, you just watch these videos and I go over in detail what to do. But the better your setup is, the quicker you're going to get to that $100K a month bottom line. And it could take going from 7 years down to 3 years to get to $100K a month, just based upon putting in 2 or 3 times the effort what the average Joe is going to put in to get the better ad, better landing page set up from the beginning. Okay. Whereas the average person is saying, oh, I'll invest in all that when I start making money. No, you're not going to do that. You're saying, I'm going to invest in this as if there's no way I'm not doing this. And I want this to take only 3 years to get to $100K a month. And so I'm going to put the work in now. I'm going to launch it. In 3 years, I'm going to have it. So again, like I mentioned at the start of this video, it's all about mindset, really. Do you have the stick-to-itiveness and also the fortitude to want to set it up and see it through or not? Because Google doesn't give a rat's ass about you making money as a company yourself. All they want is a better mousetrap to advertise. That's it. You either give it to them and they give you all that money, or you don't, and then you don't get jack shit, essentially. After expenses, at the end of the day, you're wasting your time, wasting your efforts, wasting your money. So what you're going to do, though, is once you reach your goal of your MER ratio, your ratio of sales to ad spend that's profitable after expenses, you're going to raise your spend 10% at a time. So that once you're hit, you do all this, because once you hit profitability, it's fun. Okay, we're at $1 million a year in profit now. Let's get to 1.1. Let's spend 10% more on ads. Where's the best producing ads that we have? Or do we have to set up a new ad? And let's run that until we get to 1.1. Then let's go ahead and shoot for 1.2. And you just keep doing this again and again and again. And that's all these guys that are spending the top money in your space have done. It's really not complicated. They just had better, they spent more time setting up their ads to make them better segmentation, better ad copywriting skills, better landing page design skills, or they hired somebody that's more competent than who you hired, and they got it all and you don't have it because of that. Now, the time frame, the average time itself that it takes to get to $1 million a year in profit or $100K a month in ad spend, I could tell you is right around 7 years. For our clients that we're stuck doing pretty much everything for the client, where they're just like, oh, I'm busy, going to the lake, and I had a family reunion this week, I couldn't do anything that you asked, blah, blah, blah. If I have a client who is super motivated and I say do X, Y, and Z, and they do it, and they get us the content we need, and they, get testimonials from the customers that they have and so forth, you can get that down to 3-4 years no problem. But it's because the user has more confidence in your company, because you're making yourself, you're being more transparent about what you do. Given it is good, they know more that it is good. So therefore, they're going to convert better, and you're going to cut down the time it takes to get to the 100K a month and spend greatly as a result. And I'm going to give you some examples of this with the case studies I'm going to go over here. But before I do, if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, you absolutely should. I have basically everything you need to know to breach the 100K a month and spend for free on this channel. Like I mentioned, if you haven't subscribed, do it. I've got a great blog on my site at guaranteedppc.com/blog with step-by-step instructions on how to actually make money with ads. Everything is there for you to be able to use. And, the way that we're using, the strategies we're using to guarantee our clients results at our firm. Do you have any questions about anything I'm covering here, by the way? Leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a question or a comment on this channel, usually within 24 hours time. You can also reach out to me through my Discord group that I have, a link in the video description. You can also reach out to me at my firm and do a coaching call with me. I work with agency owners and companies alike. You can do that pretty much, any week that you would like. Do those calls as well. The main thing is, though, with these results, of course, I've said it before many times and I'll say it again. Generally speaking, when you're doing less than about 500K a year USD, you're better off watching this channel religiously and just doing the strategies I talk about that guarantee our clients results and just doing the work yourself. Once you're past that 500K a year revenue mark, then it just makes sense to hire our agency and just do it all for you. Why? Because instead of getting 50% of the value out of the information, you're getting 100% of the value. And there's no point in not leaving half of it on the table just because you wanted to do it yourself. You didn't know the intricacies of it exactly. So anyway, if you are interested in hiring us to do it for you, I can give you an 8-quarter projection of your results. And then of course you just cut a check and we'll get you the results. We do not charge our clients management fees until we can get them a certain minimum lift in the profitability in excess of, like what our fees are and so forth. So if you're interested in that, let me know. Reach out to me at my agency at guaranteedppc.com. I also have ad templates available. If you are in a market that we've already been in, we can sell you the winning ads, landing pages, all of it that work for your niche market. And you can copy paste that into your ad account and get the same results we did. I can tell you the results you're going to get with it up front. As long as you're in a different city or country that our clients in, you can use it for yourself. So if you're interested in that, we've got hundreds of templates and hundreds of different niche markets. You can use that for yourself. So with the case studies here, though, getting into that, ultimately here, we had a company that sold just regular house paint out of all things here. It took 7 years of building up their account, starting with the 3K a month in ad spend or less to get up to that 100K a month an ad spend territory where they're making about $1 million a year in profit. So that's one example market where that shows you how good things are. Now, we had a little bit of support from the client to get, before and after pictures and, make sure that they're taking the reviews seriously and stuff like that. But nowhere near what we should, mainly because the client had a fear of, companies, I see this all the time. They get scared to do things that their competition isn't willing to do. And they say, well, if they're not doing it, why should I have to? Well, that's like the dumbest thing in the world to say. I mean, you're not competing with them. You're helping the consumer make a purchase here. And the better that they are informed, the better you're going to basically do as a whole. So instructing them how to make, instructional videos on what to know, everything to know about house paint, what to buy, how to buy it, getting video testimonials, all that stuff, they wouldn't do it. Oh, we don't need to do that. And ultimately, and then of course, like clockwork, if the results don't come in quicker and you mention you need this stuff, then they just say, well, why aren't you doing more to da 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 da? And that's part of our job, my job doing what I'm doing with clients. But the truth is the truth, though, at the end of the day. If you can have the best PPC strategy, it's not going to work near as fast if you do stuff on your website consistently to better educate the consumer. Content marketing is super important in today's environment. It's going to only get more important in the future because they don't want to buy from nameless, faceless companies, frankly. So that's one example market. Now, we had a wakeboarding supplies company where we got it done in 6 here. We've been in business over a decade, so I've had time to see quite a few of these companies do well. Wakeboarding supplies, so in this particular case, we did have the support to have a budget to put together some videos on behalf of the client that would go over the competition's product versus ours, which Every market, people want this information, but people are so damn resistant, so afraid to do this content because they don't see anybody else doing it. They just don't ever do it. And so if you're the one company in the market who say, here's what the competition offers, here's what I offer, and you show that to your potential consumer base, they're going to love the shit out of you. The consumer wants it, you want it, but you don't want to do it for your consumers. Why? The reality is it's arrogance at the end of the day. There's no excuse for it. But that cut down the time to about 6 years just because we were able to do some of that content, just to give you some frame of reference. And then we had a kitchen remodeling company where we got that same thing done in 4 years. Okay. Namely because they took what they were doing super serious. Every customer, there was a plan to document the whole thing. You know, interview the customer, show inside and out the job before and after, and then heavily advertise all this for anybody who hits the site. So if they're in market for a kitchen remodel, they're going to see 20 different stories from 20 different customers, exactly what they bought, why they bought it, what they thought, blah, 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 blah. So if you want to cut down the time it takes for you to get to this 100K a month, you want to start doing that kind of stuff. And yes, you're not going to see your competition doing it. That's irrelevant because the consumer wants to see how you do your work, how you do your thing. And if you're selling products, of course, you can do comparisons with your competition. You could do visual demonstrations of how your product works. We've sold toolboxes and beat the crap out of them and show how durable they are. People don't want to inherently just do this stuff. They don't, because people are always behind the curve. Like in 2003, people were saying, does internet marketing really work? And then, 2011, does Facebook ads really work? 10 years from now, it's going to be absolutely obvious that video content and marketing is going to be a key part of making a business work because people are just going to expect video content in order to buy from that company. Why don't you have any video content? What are you trying to hide? So anyway, you get the picture. You want to give as much information to the user. And, you have to do it strategically so you don't bog down the user who don't want it. But for the person who wants more information, you basically give them an endless stream of information. So there's no possible way that they could have any question that was unanswered. You're going to make more money that way. Now, there's some small caveats to that because sometimes you don't want people to think about certain things. Like if you're selling a trip to Asia, you don't want people to think about the plane flight, how much it sucks and all that. But that's where you just highlight the stuff that they want to know and you keep it simple. But anyway, that is pretty much what I wanted to cover here in regards to how to spend 100K a month in Google ad spend and make it profitable. You can do this in 7 years, you can do it in 3 years, depending on how hard you work. But nevertheless, you can get it done regardless if you just understand how to be able to peg your leading competition that's in the top 20% and how to actually do a bit better than them, or actually just the same as them. But really your goal should be to be a little bit better than the top guy in your space in terms of ad quality, landing page quality. And there's no point where doing that doesn't pay for itself in terms of cutting down the time it takes to get to this magic 100K a month number. You're not going to save money by saying, 20% is good enough. Really, take my word for it. You don't have to be 10 times better than everybody else, but just a little bit better than everybody else. You're going to crush it. That's it. See you on the next one. If you want to see another video, click here. It is one of my best ones.